Hey guys, it's Blue Eyes Master 91, and I thought I would follow up my Dino deck profile from a couple days ago with my Fossil Fusion deck profile. So let's dig into it. I know I did a deck profile on this about a year ago. I think it was May, towards the end of May actually. I think. So this will be a good look at the revisions I've made to the deck since that profile went out. So I'm running two Valkyrian and one Berserktron, the Electromagnetic Warrior. I think I said that name right. I do have a second copy of him in the side deck, and I'll probably show my side deck as well, just because it's an interesting side deck. It was kind of hard to do, but I run it this way because Valkyrion is definitely the better monster in my opinion. Believe I run their fusion. Yeah, I run one copy of their fusion. And while the Electromagnetic Warrior is a good card, the weaker attack power, weaker defense, kind of hurts it. It, I believe, has the better effect. I'm not gonna dive into that right now. I can in a different video if people need me to. But I believe it just lets you re-summon out Magnet Warrior monsters from the grave. Or you can banish them or something. Whereas Valkyrian lets you re-summon out the three monsters you used to summon him with his effect. Next I have two copies of each of the original Magnet Warriors, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. The hollow versions are my original copies of these cards from, I believe it was Duelist of the Roses when that came out years ago now. Jeez. I also have three copies of Delta, the Magnet Warrior, two copies of Epsilon, the Magnet Warrior. And these are really, really good cards. They're all rock monsters, which is what this deck is completely based around. It's very, very easy to summon these guys out. I also have two copies of Alpha, the Electromagnetic Warrior, Beta, the Electromagnetic Warrior. I'll move the camera over and down. Maybe down. There we go. And then two copies of Gamma, the Electromagnetic Warrior. That's just because the Magnet Warrior package, I'll say, is the main focal point of the deck. Because they're all rock monsters, level 3, level 4, helps the deck quite a bit, but it's not the full-blown strategy of the deck. Obviously, it's to get the big fossil monsters out from the extra deck. So let's get into the rest of the monsters. So to help us with our main objective of the fossil monsters, we have two copies of Flint Kragger. Two copies of Weathering Soldier. Let's see. Weathering Soldier, I believe. This card is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard by a card effect. You can add a Fossil Fusion or a card that lists Fossil Fusion specifically in its text. Except another copy of Weathering Soldier. From the deck to your hand, you can only use each effect once per turn during the end. Once per turn during the end phase, this card loses 600 attack. Kragger's effect is if this card is special summoned, discard one card, and if you do, send one Fossil Fusion monster from the extra deck to the grave. You can send this card from the field to the graveyard and inflict 500 points to your opponent. Then, if Fossil Fusion is in the graveyard, You can return to your grave one of your banished cards that is Fossil Fusion or mentions it. So both these cards help you get to Fossil Fusion either from the deck or the graveyard. And then the last monster for the main deck is a single copy of Nibiru. And that's just because Big Rock, so why not? For spells, we have, see if I can get them on camera, 3 Fossil Fusion spells. Fossil Fusion was an anime exclusive card for a lot of years prior to it being printed. Fossil Fusion allows you to use your graveyard to fusion summon along with your opponent's graveyard, depending on the requirements on the monsters. We have 3 copies of Time Stream, which allows you to de-evolve your fossil fused out monsters. Target 1 Fossil Fusion monster you control, tribute it, and if you do, special summon 1 Fossil Fusion monster from the extra deck whose level is 2 higher than that monster's. This is treated as a fusion summon Fossil Fusion during your main phase, except the turn this card is sent to the grave. You can banish this card, add 1 Fossil Fusion monster from the grave, and 1 fossil. You can banish this and 1 Fossil Fusion monster from your graveyard, then target 1 Fossil Fusion monster in your grave, special summon it. So this allows you to recycle your monsters. I'm also running 2 copies of Specimen Inspection. I'm really happy about this card coming out in the TCG. Reveal 1 Fossil Fusion spell in your hand. Send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, declare 1 type. On a level, then your opponent looks at their hand and deck and sends 1 monster with the declared type and level from deck to grave, if possible. You can only activate this once a turn. Excuse me. With Kashtira running amok in the meta right now, it's really easy to call. Level 7 and Psychic, I believe, is what most of the cash monsters are. So that's really easy to call, in my opinion at least. And the last spell from the anime is Miracle Rupture. And this spell says, send 1 level 4 or lower rock monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then if Fossil Fusion is in the grave, draw 1 card. So I only run 1 copy of it because if Fossil Fusion isn't in the graveyard, you don't get the draw effect. And honestly, because the deck was already pretty full on spell and traps. Like, there's a lot of monsters, a lot of spells, not a lot of trap. But the traps that are in here, there's only probably 1 I could take out for a second copy, and I don't think it really warrants a second copy. If you don't think, or if you do think rather that it should be at 2, you're welcome to alter the deck to fit your dueling style, as always. So, with that said, let's get into the rest of the spells. So, next we have a single copy of Magnet Induction. If you control a Magnet Warrior monster whose level is 4 or lower, special summon a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from the deck with a different name than the card than the cards you control. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, Magnet Warrior and Magna Warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects. So it's really good protection for the Magnet Warrior monsters. We have Recycling Plant to help with bringing back polymerization and fusion materials. Discard a card, add a polymerization from deck or grave to your hand. Once a turn, during the end phase, you can target a monster in your graveyard that was used as fusion material, add it to your hand. So yeah, you can just recycle fusion material monsters and a polymerization spell card. We have one Foolish, one Feather Duster. I'm noticing my camera is running a little slow now, so that's fun. One copy of Magnetic Field, one Poly, and a copy of Terraforming. So that's it on the spells. Let's dive into the few traps the deck has. For the traps, we have Magnet Force, as seen in the anime in the final duel between Yugi and Atem. It's not, the world's best trap card in the world. This is the one I would take out for another copy of Miracle Rupture if needed. This turn, all monsters on the field whose original types are rock or machine are unaffected by your opponent's monster effects, except their own. So it just adds an extra layer of protection to your rock monsters if they need it, which a lot of the fusions don't. We have Skill Drain because why not? It's cash format, so negating those effects are really, really important. One Imperm to further negate, and then another board wipe in, or the only board wipe, I take that back, in Torrential. So that's it on the main deck. Let's dive into the extra, as I'm making a mess. Extra deck. So for the extra deck, it was very difficult for me to update this deck last year when Battle of Chaos, I believe it was, came out and gave us not Battle of Chaos. That was for the main deck. It was Ghost from the Past 2 that gave us some of the other Fossil Fusion cards. It became very, very difficult to update this deck's extra deck. But I came to the conclusion for 2 copies of Fusion Dragon Skullguard, 2 Fusion Warrior, Fossil Warrior Skull Kings, a single Fossil Machine Skull Convoy, 1 Skull Knight, 1 Skull Wagon. Ooh, I'm not seeing any of these. There we go. And then 1 copy of Skull Buggy, a single copy of Fossil Dragon Skull Gar. Oh, that was Fossil Dragon Skolios, not Skullgar, my bad. And then 3 copies of Fossil Warrior Skull Bone. The ratios are because you have 3, 4, 5 level 4 monsters to use to upgrade with Time Stream to go into a plethora of options. Well, not really. You have 2 options, Skull Machine or Skull Knight. And obviously from there you would have 3 options, I believe. And Skolios, King, and Convoy. 2. So with Time Stream, you can basically completely power yourself up. You can go into my personal 2 favorite monsters in Skull King and Skolios. The other way each of these cards can be summoned Scolios, it is a rock monster in a level 7 or higher from your opponent's graveyard. For King, it is a rock monster and one level 7 or higher monster in general. It doesn't matter which graveyard. Convoy is a rock monster in your graveyard and a level 7 or higher monster. So the level 7 can come from either grave. The next is Skull Knight, which is a rock monster and a level 5 or 6 monster, again, either grave. Fossil Machine Skull Wagon calls for a rock in your grave. Looks like that is a theme for all the Fossil Machines are. The rock monster must be in your graveyard, and then it's a level 5 or 6 for Skull Wagon. And then it's a level 4 or lower for Skull Buggy. For Skullgar, it's a rock monster and a level 4 or lower in your opponent's graveyard. And then for Fossil Warrior Skullbone, it is a rock monster and one level 4 or lower monster. So each one has a unique summoning requirement, more or less anyway. So I built the deck and altered it with that gimmick in mind with the Fossil Fusion stuff. Moving right along, though, we have Empyrean Magnum, the superconductive BattleBot, which is the fusion of Valkyrian and the other one, the Electromagnetic Warrior version, Berserkian. And it is a 4K beat stick. This is a 4K. So really good at defense, really good offense. Must be fusion summon with the above. Cannot be special summon any other way. Once a turn during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap or monster effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If this card in its owner's possession leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon both one Valkyrian, the Magnum Warrior, and one Berserkian, the Electromagnetic or Electromagna Warrior, from your deck or your hand, ignoring summoning conditions. So, that said, you would probably want to run 2 copies of each for that effect. There are obviously ways to recycle, but running 2 would be very, very important. Because it says you can special summon both, one of each. I believe you have to summon out both or none at all. I would need to talk to a judge about that ruling, though. We also do have one Xyz in Time Thief, Redoer, Time Thief, Redoer, and then we have our Blackluster Soldier Link to round out, just giving it a little bit more staying power in the extra deck. Going into my side deck for this, it's, like I said, the second copy of Berserkian. I have 2 Ash. I know I said in my Dino video, I'm not used to going up against Ash anymore. That hasn't changed. I believe it'll be the weekend after Easter. I'll be able to go to my locals to test this deck out. So I'll find out if people are running Ash a little bit more now or not, now that the format's kind of grown since I've been there. I also have a card I got in Photon Hypernova, Sneaky C. When your opponent special summons a monster or monsters except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand in face down defense. And if you do during the end phase of this turn, change it to face up defense. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this card is flipped face up during the end phase, destroy all special summon cards on the field. So Sneaky C is pretty good. In the Castira format, I don't know how viable it would be. I think it'd be a little bit better in like Trap Tricks or something, where you can probably keep it on the field a little longer. But I just thought for a little bit of variety that wouldn't be a bad card to have. As an option, at least. Next, I have Electromagnetic Turtle, which you can banish it to end the battle phase. We have Gate Blocker to stop field spells. As I said before, a second copy of Specimen Inspection. I have a copy of Fairy Meteor Crush, since none of these cards can deal piercing. That helps with that. We have a copy of Dark Ruler No More, Called By, and Gozen, since everything in this deck is Earth. Yeah, except Redoer. He is the only Dark in the deck. But everything else is in Earth except Nibiru, who is Light for some reason. The other cards in the side deck are Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon as another Xyz option. The Augusto Imperial for just another rock, and it's got a decent effect. And then we have a second copy of Skullgars. And then I also have Garua, Wings of Resonant Life in here as well, though with only one copy of Poly in the deck. I'm not sure what conditions need to be met to have that get cited in. That is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, like, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys all in the next one. See ya!